Now, I want you to hear me well about this. I'm not saying every book belongs in the classroom. I want to be very clear about that, okay? Because I know I get some pushback. This is a touchy subject, very controversial. Welcome back to the Teacher RockStar podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to providing valuable insights, practical tips, and proven strategies to equip new teachers for success. I'm your host, Steve Hiles, retired educator, published author, and instructional coach. Join me in each episode as we offer a supportive platform for navigating the challenges of the teaching profession. Here's a thought to kick us off today. What's the last book that you read that completely changed your perspective or something? Do you recall what it was? Well, imagine if that book had been banned before you ever got a chance to pick it up. This is why today's topic is so important, and it's really, really quite controversial. And it's about the impact of banning books in public schools, what it means for our classrooms, and more importantly, what it means for our students. So grab your favorite banned book, maybe a cup of coffee, and let's dive into why banning books is such a hot topic and what it means for our classrooms and our schools. I'm going to be addressing 7 points throughout this video that I want to share with you. And the first one is, what is the fuss all about? So let's start with the basics here. Book banning really isn't new. It's been around for centuries, actually. But in the past year alone, there's been a dramatic increase in book challenges across the United States, according to the American Library Association. There were over 1,200 documented attempts to ban or restrict library books in 2022. That's almost double the number from the year before. Clearly, people have some strong feelings about what kids should and should not read. Point 2. What's getting banned and why? Now you might be wondering what kinds of books are on the chopping block. Some of the most targeted books include classics like To Kill a Mockingbird and 1984, as well as the more recent works like The Hate You Give. At any rate, the reasons vary. Some cite profanity, others mention sexual content or political ideologies. And then there are those who say that these books are just plain too controversial. But hey, isn't that the point of literature, to make us think? Moving on to point 3, the impact on students. Here's where it gets personal for us educators. When books are banned, what this means is that students lose access to diverse voices, perspectives, and stories. For example, studies show that reading fiction increases empathy, an essential skill for navigating today's world, wouldn't you say? By restricting certain books, we're potentially stunning our students' emotional growth. And let's be real, does the world really need less empathy? Are you a teacher who finds yourself drowning in the challenges of classroom management? Do student behaviors leave you feeling overwhelmed and drained at the end of each day? Picture this, a classroom where your students are not just present, but fully engaged, focused, and eager to learn. Say goodbye to classroom management stress and hello to success. The Teacher RockStar Academy course is meticulously designed to equip you with the tools and strategies needed to skyrocket your effectiveness as a teacher. Curious to know if the Teacher RockStar Academy course is the missing piece in your teaching journey? If you're ready to reclaim control of your classroom and witness the incredible impact on your students, then use the link in the podcast description to learn more about this program. Okay, the next point, a classroom without choices. I want you to imagine for a second walking into a classroom where every book is hand-picked to avoid offending somebody. It sounds safe, doesn't it? But it also is limiting. A 2021 survey found that 70% of educators believe book bans hinder their ability to teach critical thinking. Literature isn't just about reading the words. It's about wrestling with big ideas, asking the tough questions, and learning to see the world through somebody else's eyes. If we take that away, what are we left with? You need to really think about that. A generation that knows the alphabet but doesn't know how to think critically. And I don't think that's what we want in our school system. Okay, moving on to point 5, real life examples. What happened in Texas? Let's take a look at a real example. In Texas, one school district made headlines when they temporarily removed the Diary of Anne Frank. Yes, you heard that right. A book about the Holocaust was deemed inappropriate. Now, what message does that send to our kids about learning from history? Ignoring the uncomfortable parts doesn't make them go away. It just ensures we're doomed to repeat them again. All right, now, point 6, finding a balance. Now, I want you to hear me well about this. I'm not saying every book belongs in the classroom. I want to be very clear about that, okay, because I know I'll get some pushback. This is a touchy subject, very controversial, okay? Sure, age appropriateness is important, and parents' input matters. Okay, it definitely does. But there's a difference between having a thoughtful discussion about a book's place in the curriculum and yanking it off the shelves because it makes somebody feel uncomfortable. Growth happens in the discomfort zone, my friend. Okay? So let's move on to this last point that I want to make. What, in fact, can teachers do? Well, we as educators, what can we do about this? Start by advocating for transparency and collaboration. If a book is being challenged, involve the community in constructive dialogue. Use resources like the National Coalition Against Censorship to educate yourself and your school board. And don't underestimate the power of teaching your children about the First Amendment, okay? Knowledge is power, and our kids need to understand what the stakes are. So, in conclusion, whether you're for or against certain books in schools, remember this: our job as educators is to prepare students for the real world. And, you know, the real world is not censored. Let's give them the tools to navigate it, question it, and maybe even improve it, okay? So, having said that, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Teacher RockStar podcast. We'll see you same time, same place next week. And remember, my friend, you got this.
You've been listening to the Teacher RockStar podcast with your host, Steve Hiles. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast as much as we have. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our ever-growing community of Teacher RockStars. Until then, thanks for listening.